My name is Ben. I am the head of code environments here at Learning People, and I just need to make you aware that we are recording this session. And let's give it a second to come in. Okay, let's kick off. So thank you again for taking the time to spend with us today, because it's really great for us to be able to do these kind of webinars where we can show our prospective students just a little bit more about who we are, and most importantly, who our students are. So the main feature today is going to be with one of our existing students, Kirsty, and her journey. And she's going to be talking with my colleague and good friend, Stuart, who was responsible for originally enrolling her. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about us and who we are, and then Robin is going to tell you a little bit about career services that we provide, because that's one of the most important features that we provide, is the support and guidance for each of our students to get that first job. So to tell you just a little bit about us, and I will try and keep it brief because we try to keep these to like 25-30 minutes, and I could waffle on. But in short, Learning People, in the last 12 years, we've become the largest e-learning provider in Europe, and for lots of reasons, I think. Simple things like a very strong dedication to our students, in particular making sure that what they're learning is actually going to get them a job, great qualifications, career support as well. And basically, if you're looking for a career in coding, there's a few key things that you're going to need that we can talk through later on, but there's a few key things that you're going to need, and we'll talk through all of those things. We've also become, I think, as large and as successful as we are by making partnerships with various other organisations, and most notably recently, on top of our various government affiliations and so on, but most notably recently is with Tech UK. And if you're not sure about what Tech UK is, this is an organisation which exists for the advancement of technology here in the UK, and massive organisations like Google, Dell, IBM. There's 850 companies on here basically, and we are extremely proud to be the only training organisation that is part of this group. So it's things like this and many others that, believe me, I would love to tell you about, but would take so long. And it's, like I said, it's things like this that have got us to where we are today, where we're in a really privileged position to be able to help people like yourselves to take those first steps into a new career. So you'll hear a little bit more from me later on when I'll be answering some of the questions that you guys have sent through. But for now, over to Robin, who can tell you just a little bit about our career services and how that works.
Thanks, Ben. So I'm Robin. I'm a member of the career services team. Before I joined Learning People last year, I was recruiting for software developers in Dublin for about 2.5 years. And the purpose of us as career services and what we provide to students is we help you guys to become job ready, to be able to navigate the job market and navigate that career change. So we've designed a 3-phase process which we guide students through in order to facilitate this. Phase 1 is all about building your professional brand. So it's about putting together those foundation blocks of you becoming a credible software development candidate. And the biggest thing that you'll take from this section is understanding how to present yourself in line with the market's expectations of your desired role. And that is the key difference of you getting noticed or not, which we know is one of the harder things when job seeking, is being able to stand out against the crowd. So we'll give you guides on how to research the industry, how to update your CV and update your LinkedIn. And we'll go through a very consultation process until your CV and LinkedIn reach that industry focused standard, which is really going to help you be able to stand out and get noticed. Once we finalize that process, we'll then progress you to phase 2, which is all about networking, right? So we teach you how to approach key players in the development industry, how to learn from them and build rapport so that you've got contacts in the new industry, but also broaden your knowledge of the industry. So that's one side of phase 2. The other side is about ensuring that you're balancing your methods of application towards the job market. So too commonly, people will forget about networking nowadays because the online job boards exist. You know, they're too easy to use, right? And the difficult thing about them is that if you're only applying for jobs online, you're almost guaranteeing that it's going to take you longer to find a job, because what a lot of people don't know is that the online job boards only represent 30% of available opportunities. So it can be a very demoralizing process if you're just applying for jobs online. So what we to help you do is to structure a targeted plan where you're balancing multiple methods of application, and that is what gives you the stronger probability of achieving a positive result. We'll have regular 2 to 3 week consultations analysing your progress on that and tailoring it to what is going to be most helpful to you to actually reach your goals. Phase 3 then is the final phase. It focuses mainly on interview support. So we can do quite intensive interview prep calls. We can do mock interviews. We'll help you to do that salary negotiation sort of dance and how to deal with the job offer process. And in addition to that general 3-phase process, you'd have someone like myself as your consultant on hand for tailored and impartial support on anything that comes under the careers umbrella. So that means if you want to be front end, or if you want to be back end, or if you want to be full stack, you will get a tailored plan and tailored support to help you actually achieve that in the job market. And the support is available to you all the way up until you start your new role.
That's perfect. Thank you for that, Robin. Yeah, guys, I'd say if you want any more information about that, that is on our website. There's obviously a lot more to the process than that stuff, but thank you so much for talking through that, Robin. So over to the main feature with Stuart and Kirsty. I think you guys are going to have a little bit of a chat and go through some questions that I think prospective students would probably be wondering about already, but it'd be great to hear from an existing student who's been through the journey themselves. So over to you guys.
Brilliant, thank you, Ben. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I've been a senior code consultant at the Learning People for about 6.5 years. Ben was actually the person who trained me when I came here. So he is responsible for me, for better or worse. I actually asked to be the one to do the interview today because Kirsty is a student of mine from way back when, and I realized, and I talked to Kirsty about this a little earlier today when we just had a very quick catch up. We've spoken so many times. This is the first time we've ever had a video conversation. So nice to actually see you.
Yeah, no, likewise.
So Kirsty, let's dive right in. I think everybody is most eager to hear from you. Just to start right back at the very beginning, can you tell us about your previous career and why you decided it was time for a change?
Yeah, so I was a military musician in the Royal Marines Band Service for 6 years. So I performed a lot of gigs kind of around the UK, Europe, and I was also part of their social media team, helping to create video content for various different social media pages. But I kind of hit this point probably about 4 years in. I was like, there's just something missing. There's something not quite fitting. I don't know what it is, and I couldn't quite work it out. And I think part of me knew before I joined as well, was like, this isn't going to be a long-term career. This is, I enjoy music. I enjoy making videos. This is what I want to do now. But then it was just getting a bit slow, and I was like, yeah, I need something different. I need something a bit more. And it was actually during the first lockdown last year that I was like, right, okay, this is it. I'm making the change. Let's go for coding.
Thank you. I have to say, the first time we spoke, I think we may have gone on a bit of a tangent because your previous career sounded so cool and so interesting. I think I forgot for the first 5 minutes that we were here to talk about your career change. It's interesting that you decided in the first lockdown to make the big change, because I think for a lot of people that was an unsure time. And it would have been the easiest excuse in the world, I think, to not make any kind of change at that point. But you did, and I'm curious if you could elaborate on that. Why specifically did you want to get into coding, and why did you choose then?
So I actually originally did some coding when I was at university. In the course I did a course called Creative Technologies. It's very broad. Covered like graphic design, web development, sound engineering, filmmaking, a whole range of things. And I remember coding kind of stuck with me, but I never considered it as a career at the time. I remember finding it really enjoyable. It was also the most satisfying thing when you actually get something to work as well. I'd always kind of played around with it, you know, every now and again, it's like it would pop up and I'm like, oh, okay, let's have a look at this, have a play around. But then, yeah, the first lockdown hit and I kind of realized I wasn't missing my current job. I wasn't missing performing the gigs. I wasn't missing editing videos. And I said, right, okay, this is it. I think actually I first spoke to you, Stuart, in 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. August 2019.
August 2019, that's what it was. Because I was kind of, tinkering around with some coding stuff then, and I think I kind of registered my interest. In the course, I kept seeing an advert pop up for it. I was like, okay, and we had a call. And I remembered it was always kind of playing in the back of my head. It's like, right, you just need the perfect time. You need the perfect time. And I felt like that was kind of an excuse. And it's like, well, really, COVID's probably the best time because I'm not working. Like, let's get started. Let's do it. Really, yeah.
That is absolutely, I think, when you really ended up on my radar, and I was most impressed because whilst the world was on fire, you phoned up and said, right, I'm ready for this big career change. And you've been preparing for it for a while. I almost feel a little nervous asking this question, but you kind of raised it a second ago. We spoke for the first time in August of 2019. And of course, we spoke a few times, quite a lot since then, really. How did you find those initial calls in prepping you for this world?
Oh, gosh.
You can say mean things about me if you like.
No, like you've been, honestly, it's like I still remember the first call. You kind of it was so laid back. There was nothing kind of there was no kind of commitment. It was just a general chat, friendly chat. It was like, this is the course, this is what's covered, this is what the cost of it is. Like, you don't have to commit yourself to it. It's just, I'm just here to tell you, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And that's always stuck with me. And then obviously I called you again, I think it was May last year, to kind of say, yep, let's do it. Just that friendly kind of chat, stuck with me, really.
I'm just going to ask you a small follow-up on that. How hard did I go in on the whole subject of LinkedIn? In those.
Very hard. That was actually, you told me in our first call to set up for LinkedIn, and I did have one set up from uni, but I hadn't touched it since setting it up, and it was just terrible. And you said, I can't remember exactly what you told me to do, but you told me to update a few things. Or you give me a list, or do this, do that, do that. And obviously that was only the first call. I wasn't even I was like, I don't even know if I can start the course right now. I'm busy, but that was it, straight in. It's like, get your LinkedIn sorted out. So
that's right. I think I gave you homework on that first call and you weren't even a student. I said, go away, do these things and you'll learn more about the industry. I forgot about that.
Yeah, you were my first
I do
connection.
give a lot of homework.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember. My goodness, you must have been a bit shocked. Like getting homework from the first call, you weren't even a student. But yes, you were very, very good on LinkedIn. You quickly kind of took to it and started connecting with lots of coders and speaking to a lot of people. Let's talk about some of the main concerns you may have had, because we've touched on a few things, right? It was the middle of COVID. It's a career change. It's a big thing. It's a completely new area. I think sometimes the biggest concerns for people isn't learning to code, but actually just understanding the coding industry. So what were your main sort of chief concerns near the beginning, and how did you address them?
So main concerns, well, fitting in the course around kind of working full time. I mean, when I first started the course, I don't think I was in full-time work for maybe about 5 months, but as soon as that 5 months ended, it was straight back in full-time. It was trying to kind of fit that in. But then it's just kind of remembering, well, how much do you want this? How much do you enjoy it? And it's putting in those extra hours, and just that lack of sleep, you just kind of get used to it, to be honest. But then it comes to the concern of obviously getting the job and at the end of it, and it's completely new industry, especially for myself coming from the military. I've never worked in like an office or anything. I've never even wrote a CV before. It was all very scary, but again, it was just kind of that thing in the back of my head. It's like, you enjoy this, it's there. It's always been there in the back of your head. Just go for it. Like, kind of push that fear aside almost.
Yeah, one of the phrases I often come back to, and it's something that you did very well, is consistency of character throughout your studies. And whenever we spoke, you were always talking about your routine or your plans or what you've come before. And I think that is what gets you through that year, just finding that consistency. So jumping sort of through the course then towards the end, you're obviously in work now.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey into that role, how career services sort of worked alongside you, and how you actually got into that role? Because it is an interesting story. We've talked about it quite a bit in the past, but everyone would, I'm sure, would love to hear it from you.
So I first spoke with Robin, actually. I think it must have been March this year, if I'm not mistaken. I was kind of getting towards the end of the course, and I wanted to start applying for jobs. And again, I'd never wrote a CV, so I kind of quickly typed one up. I was like, no idea what's expected, but obviously got in touch with Robin, and we started phase 1 of career services. Robin was brilliant, I have to say. She was like, went through my CV. She's like, give me suggestions of what to add, change, remove, kind of get it up to really good standard. Chat with cover letter writing. Went through my LinkedIn profile again, as much as you kept going on about it, Stuart. Then Robin as well was going on about it. It's like, get your LinkedIn updated. And actually, I finished phase 1 of career services, started phase 2, but never finished it. So I got very lucky. So as part of the course, you get assigned a mentor. So you do kind of these milestone projects, and you get assigned a mentor. And my mentor, luckily enough, was he's head of the software development team at PwC. And he said, look, there's some jobs going, you can interview if you want. And I said, okay, yeah, interview practice, not thinking anything of it. Went in, one interview, and I got offered the job, I think, about 3-4 weeks after it. Never got to finish phase 2, but it just shows you how effective it is, just having that CV, that LinkedIn profile updated. Another one I threw in there is actually keeping your GitHub profile updated. That was also a big help. Constantly, like, no matter how small of a project it is, just put it up. It's something.
I will say getting a job as a coder is a perfectly acceptable excuse for not finishing phase 2. That is okay.
Yeah.
Neither Robin nor I accept many excuses for work not getting done, but that is absolutely one of the ones that's okay. So you've been in the role now for about a month, I understand. Could you tell us a little bit about what that roller coaster ride has been like?
Oh, very different. Office life is very different. I mean, I'm only in 2 days a week at most, but it's well, I'm at home at the moment, but 2 days a week max. Very different compared to the military, but it's been good. It's been great. The team are fantastic. It's been a lot of training at the moment, so I'm just kind of upskilling myself. I'm focusing on JavaScript, learning React at the moment, and also working towards a Google Cloud Associate Engineer exam, which we're all required to do at the moment. So I'm working towards that. That's also very different, but it's all exciting. It's all, it's great fun. Like, I enjoy sitting at my desk and working away. I find myself, I finish work and I'm still like, oh, I want to come back and like finish doing this thing and that thing, and I keep going. But I'm enjoying it, which is good.
That's the dangerous thing about coding, right? It's addictive, and it becomes less about trying to do your job and more like, I just need to figure out why this doesn't work.
Yeah. And you start a tutorial and you're like, oh, I have to finish it. Like, I have to understand how this works. Like, I can't not finish it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kirsty. One final question then really is, you've got a lot of people here who are considering a career in coding and software development, and there's a lot that's unknown. It's like I said earlier, it's less about learning to code and just being more nervous about the industry. How does it work? What are the opportunities? What kind of advice would you give to somebody considering a career in coding?
Oh, lots. I would go with LinkedIn. Definitely use LinkedIn. It's definitely been a big help. If you do decide to enroll in the course, there's something called Slack, the community in there, great bunch of people. Like, never be afraid to reach out for help. The amount of support you get, like, from like learning people and from the course providers themselves, like, it's like endless. So much support. Like, if you do need help, like, again, don't be afraid to reach out. Like, Google will become your best friend as well. If you can't figure out something, Google it. Senior developers still Google how to do stuff. It's always there. And code every day, even if it's about 20 minutes, just do something small. I find myself, like, at weekends, I'll do like some fundamentals in JavaScript. It's just keeping that going and constantly learning something. Because the more comfortable you are with something, then it kind of, that fear kind of dies down. I mean, I still kind of open my laptop every day. There's imposter syndrome there. And I'm in the job now, like, I'm in that role, and I'm still, you know, it's like, oh God. But that's something I think it's never really going to go away. You're always going to kind of have that. But again, the more you code and the more comfortable you get with certain things, it gets a bit easier. It's easier to kind of push it down in a way.
Yeah. I think it's because as well, a lot of coders come into the role as like a second or even third career, and coding's got this great sort of mystic veil pulled across it, like, oh, this is what the uber geniuses do, and you know, you can't possibly understand it. And then actually you try something and go, oh, this is actually possible. But the imposter syndrome does stay around for a long time. Have you got to the point, Kirsty, where it's 3 a.m. and you're coding in your head?
Oh yeah, I'll wake up and kind of go, oh, I could fix that like that, especially during the course. That final project, oh, I did not do it. I kept waking up. I was like, oh, I know how to fix that. And then you try it, and it's like, oh, it didn't work. And then you go back, wake up again. You're like, no, now I know how to fix it. Yeah, that's always there.
Yeah. I suspected as much, and I know that'll never go away.
Oh yeah,
it's like having a professional Sudoku career. You just got to have another crack at the puzzle.
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, Kirsty, is there anything else you'd like to add to anybody, to anything that you've said already? Any final thoughts?
I mean, I think I've covered most of it, unless there's any questions from anyone else. But
wonderful. In that case, I will hand it back over to Ben. Kirsty, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure finally actually getting to see you after speaking to you so many times. So thank you very much. And I think we'll probably catch. No, you're welcome, and we'll catch up soon to discuss your job in more detail.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Sounds good.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Again, thank you, Kirsty, for taking the time, because I know that obviously we do these things all the time, and for your first time doing something like this, it can be a little bit scary, but you've got a fantastic story there, a great journey. And I wish we could do more of these, honestly. So we just pick one student every month and see if they're able to spend some time with us. So thank you for that. We're going to go into some questions now, where I'll try to answer them, but I might kind of hand off to others that might be better suited to answer. But so I'm going to run through a few that have been sent in. The first one I have here is from Gunter. Gunter? I'm so sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But he's asked, is a career in code suitable for a complete beginner? And I'd say yes, absolutely, because we'll perform some tests with you. There's a coding assessment that you need to complete so that we do make sure that you are right for a career in coding. You're going to be a good student for us, and that you've got the right kind of aptitude for it and so on. So there is some things that we can do to make sure that it's right for you, but most of our courses will start at a point where it assumes you know basically nothing about coding or very little, basically. So I would say, yes, it's suitable if you are considering a career change for sure. We have Ellis, who has asked, how quickly can you go from a junior developer role to a senior developer role? And that's a tricky one to answer, because it can vary so much from one person to another, because some of our students, they get their first jobs as a developer, and they might move out of that junior position into a more general position, after a year or two. But then they're really happy there for many years often. But some of our other students, inside of just 4 or 5 years, they end up becoming senior full stack developers. So it really is about you and how ambitious you specifically are. But Stuart, perhaps you could add something to that.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I actually spoke to one of my students. She graduated 4.5 years ago. It's always easy to stick in the memory because she and I know that she graduated the same time my son was born. So we always know exactly how old her coding career is. She just got promoted to senior front-end developer. And she's been working steadily in sort of front-end development for about 4.5 years. Ben's right. You know, if somebody decides to move disciplines and maybe move into data science, or if they want to try something else, then maybe it takes you a little bit longer. But generally speaking, you don't stay in those junior roles for very, very long.
Thank you, Stuart. Robin, this next one might be best for you. But it says, I'm over 50. Sorry, it's Gavin. He says, I'm over 50. And will it be easy to revamp my CV and to gain employment? I feel like there's kind of two questions there. He's kind of asking, am I too old? But also, will it be easy to revamp my CV and gain employment?
Yeah.
So do you want to answer the employment stuff and I'll do the age stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the employment kind of stuff, one thing I can completely understand why people looking at this call and thinking about enrolling going, God, how would I ever do a coding CV when you don't even know anything about coding? And that is it's a logical concern, right? Which is why when you do 4 milestone projects throughout the course, once you've done your second project is when we start to move on and start doing the CV. So by that point, you have an awful lot more knowledge than you're going to have at this point now when it seems so overwhelming. You'll have projects to showcase, you'll have an idea of your style as a developer by that point, you know, and it was a little bit after that, I think that Kirsty joined on from us, but as early as your second project, you can start doing your CV and you won't believe how easy it is. Just sort of take our word for it, but Kirsty, I suppose, can vouch for it as well, but it actually will be a lot easier to do once you actually start the course.
Thank you, Robin. And in regards to the part where I'm over 50, I would say look, we've got students in their 50s, in their late 50s, some in their early 60s, because coding is a career choice that you can learn quite well from home. It's a job that you can do from home potentially. It's something you can do part-time. It's something that you can do quite flexibly in terms of the hours. So to handle it kind of delicately, as best as I can, some of our older students actually like the idea of perhaps slowing down in the later years of their career. But I'd also say you're only 50, you've got another 20 years. So don't count yourself out. Also, on the employment side regarding age, we see very little, a little for sure, but very little correlation between those that get jobs and those that aren't based on age, race, gender, or otherwise. In fact, what we're finding more these days is that employers are looking to create the most diverse group of developers as they can in most groups, if they can, because the studies show that people from different backgrounds and experiences, they just come at problems and solve them in different ways. So development teams are often, they're trying to be made as diverse as possible. Moving on to the next question. So how are you graded on the course and are there any exams? So yes, many of our courses have exams. Our main coding course, the full stack web development program, actually doesn't have any exams. It's all based on assessments from your project work that you complete along the way. This is something that actually came about from many of the employers that we work with, particularly our Industry Advisory Council, where they basically help us to understand exactly what it is that employers are looking for today. Big names like Netflix, Visa, PayPal, MasterCard, there's loads and loads of companies on there, hundreds of them. But my point is, they all tell us what you need right now. One of their major requests when we first put this together was, can we have a qualification that is not based on the student's ability to learn how to pass an exam, and rather their ability to do a job, in this case, build websites. And that's exactly what we've done. So your projects will be assessed along the way, and assuming they meet the required criteria, great. And an employer knows that you've learned how to build websites, basically. And final question, why should I do an online bootcamp? So this is from Sanita. Why should I do an online bootcamp when I can learn online for free? And holy cow, that is a big question. So I'm conscious of time, but to wrap it up as quickly as I can, many of my students have done various free online courses before. I've been doing this for 9 years, and I can count on one hand the amount of people that have actually achieved something like this off the back of free training. Getting down to the brass tacks, it doesn't have the major things that you're going to need. The things that I would say are vital for somebody seriously thinking about a career in this field. Number one, you're not going to be sure that the skills you're gaining are specific to what employers are looking for. It's also going to be a mishmash of things. Like, you don't know if each thing is what you should be learning, if it's the right version, the right technology, and so on. Secondly, obviously, there's going to be no qualification. Thirdly, there's going to be no support, no portfolio building, no career support. So I could go on and on about that. I talk to people, we all do, every single day, who have done free or cheap courses elsewhere. In fact, some of them already have degrees in computer science and software engineering. So it's not even just the free stuff that isn't working these days. So I'd be very happy to discuss that with anybody on here that would like to get in touch. Most of you are on here actually because you've already engaged with us in some way already. So you'll probably have had a call, or a missed call at least, from one of our consultants, one of our career consultants, or at least emails from us. So please do go ahead and get in touch with us, because the only way to really be sure if this is a viable career choice for you is to talk with us a little bit about it, about your situation, what you kind of want for your future. And we can talk you through how that might look and work for you specifically. But really, the only way to know if it's going to be right for you is to get set up on our coding assessment, because it's this way that we can learn quite categorically whether a career in coding is right or wrong for you specifically. So I'm conscious that we're running over on time. I just want to say thank you to Kirsty and Stuart and Robin again for taking the time to talk with us today. Thank you to all of you for taking the time also to spend with us on your busy lunch breaks, I'm sure. And please do get in touch and we'll talk through how it works best for you guys. So thank you again, and we'll catch you next time.